Good morning, guys. This is a Thursday warm-up, and today I'm going to show you some yin postures, yin yoga postures for releasing tension from the upper back, and particularly also the chest as well. So perhaps the upper back's the wrong word, perhaps the chest is better. The thoracic spine, the bit where your ribs are connected to your spine. So yin yoga is often thought as a gentle form of yoga, but it's really not if you practice it. But it is quite an accessible form of yoga in that you don't have to have an empty tummy to do it, although some postures are easier if you do. And you can do it in your own home very readily with a range of items that you have close by. But you do need some props for most yin poses to access the benefits. There's three main principles of yin yoga, which are steadiness or stillness, softness and sustainability, which means that the postures that we hold with the body still. We hold with as little effort as possible in the body, so the body is really surrendering towards the floor. And you hold for an extended period of time, anything from 30 seconds for maybe a demanding pose to 5-10 minutes for some of the other poses. So I'm going to show you a passive stretch for the chest. So we do this often in class. We have a long rolled blanket in this case, and we start with the blanket right up against the base of the spine and lying down along the length of the blanket so that the head is also supported in this variation, and releasing the arms out to the side. And this is a lovely way to begin to open this space at the front of the body in the chest, which is often closed due to poor posture. Most of the time it's due to poor posture. So here, you can bend your knees and place your feet on the floor, which is quite nice. If this feels a bit uncomfortable or too intense in your low back, that's a nice way to support the pelvis and the lowest part of the back. If you're comfortable with your legs extended away from you, then that is also good. Yin yoga is about finding what works for you specifically, and it might be different from one side of the body to the other, and it's almost certain to be different from one day to the next or between you and other people. So there's no element of competition or comparing in yin yoga, or indeed any yoga. So here we're trying to soften the sides of the body, particularly the back of the shoulders down towards the mat, to open the space along the top of the body, the front of the shoulders, the chest. And we do that by softening all of the effort in the body. If you find it hard to let go of tension in, say, your chest or your hands or your shoulders, focus on releasing tension from your face. Soften your forehead. Relax the area around your eyes, your tongue, your jaw. And that will have the effect of releasing tension elsewhere. So a phrase I often say is, tension in the face is indicative of tension elsewhere in the body. If your face is tense, it means something else is tense. If you can relax your face, you'll find it easier to release tension in your body. And then you simply breathe deeply. Enjoy the space around you to breathe into the openness of the chest. If it's difficult to release that tension from the face, you can begin a gentle smile, just not getting all of the way. And if you're quite in touch with energy, then you might like to think about your heart center, which is lifted and opened in this position. And the palms of the hands are connected to it. So perhaps thinking about breathing into your heart, out to the palms of your hands, back into your heart. Expanding the breath along the arms into the hands. And bringing it back to rest in your heart center. And it's quite good to have an idea of the time. So either a clock that you can see or counting your breaths. So counting perhaps 15 long, slow breaths or 20 long, slow breaths is a good idea to get you to about 3 or 4 minutes. When you're ready to release, we use a little, maybe just a tiny bit of tummy tension to support the body as we come out. And you can just roll to one side and release your blanket from underneath you. And then it's really important to come back onto your back. And in this position with the knees bent and the arms to the side in whatever feels comfortable, this is called constructive rest. And it's a position where the body can rebound into its natural balanced shape. And you take a moment to observe the effect of your practice. So, for example, I feel that not only has my heart center opened, but I feel very open in my abdomen, so around my sacral chakra as well. And that has something to do with being supported behind by the blanket and the sacrum having been tipped forward, I think. Who knows? So, and then from here, after a few moments, maybe a minute of just observing the reaction of your body, your mind, your energy, you could move into your next pose. And I'm going to show you some variations on that pose. So this one I did with a long blanket, deliberately long, so it would be underneath the back of my head as well. I'm just going to shove that blanket to one side. And I'm going to show you also with a short blanket. So the short blanket can be used either across the body, of the long blanket could be as well, so across the midline of the back rather than down the length of the spine. But the short blanket offers us an opportunity to let the head be free of the movement. So it's the same principle, you're bringing the blanket really close to the back of the body as you lie over it, but it finishes at about the top of the back and the head comes down to the floor. So these postures are Yin Fish postures, and this is more like the opening throat space that the Matsyasana, the standard yoga fish, gives you. So it's the same principle. For those who are maybe needing a little bit less support underneath the back of the head, then this might be the option. So it really lets the shoulders come down. If you have no problems with your neck, if you haven't got neck injuries or neck tension, you can hold this. And I'm going to show you a different leg variation as well. So making sure it's comfortable is the most important thing in Yin Yoga. If it's not comfortable, you won't be able to release your tension and you won't be able to sustain and hold the posture for a few minutes or even longer if you choose. So that's the most important thing. It doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as it is comfortable without effort and sustainable. And it doesn't need to be super, super comfortable, just comfortable enough to hold. So you can choose for the legs an alternative by bringing the feet together and letting the knees rest out to the side. Now, if I was going to hold this for a long time, you can see my knees are off the floor. I would support them with some cushions so that they weren't hanging in space. But for the purpose of showing you guys, I can just do this for a few moments. And this is then a posture called Baddha Konasana with the legs, sometimes also known as the butterfly in Yin. So we've got butterfly legs, fish body, and it's really quite deliciously comfortable. There is the feeling of opening, but I could be here for ages. It would be lovely. So if you like this variation, you can try this. And to come out of this, I'm just going to raise the knees one at a time. Firm the belly a little bit, roll to the side, ease my blanket out from underneath me. And again, take this constructive rest pose for a few moments to allow my back to settle into a more natural shape than the one I just held. And then, so this variation with the short blanket, if you've got in your thoracic spine, if you've got what we class as good posture, you find it easy to draw the shoulder blades down. And when you do, the back of your neck is long, your upper back is long, and you don't have any sort of tech neck or forward rounding naturally. So as we age, often the thoracic spine curls forward a little bit, and our necks drop forward, our heads drop forward, which causes a lot of strain at the back of the body here. So if you don't have that, and you have no neck or shoulder problems, the short blanket variation will give you an opening across the throat, which is really quite good and accessible. But if you've got this forward tending upper back, then having the head so far back that it's on the floor will be a little bit uncomfortable, and you might even need to prop your head up a little bit further than it would be on the long blanket. So you can, of course, do exactly the same thing on the bolster if you've got a bolster, and that's often what we use bolsters for. Bolster is quite bulky, which gives support, but sometimes it can feel a little bit high off the floor. If you've got some bricks or blocks, then you can use these to affect a similar posture that's a little bit more intense. So I'm going to show you, and you can give it a go if you want to. So these blocks are really super light, and they've got beveled edges, so they haven't got any sharp corners, and they've got a little bit of give, so they've got a tiny, tiny bit of give. They're solid. I can rest my hand on them and press on them, no problem. But if I'm reclining on them with bony structures, they've just got enough of a give to feel comfortable. I do this also with my cork blocks, but it is even more intense with something that doesn't give quite so much. And wooden blocks, I don't tend to do this with. So it's the same principle of position. I've set the blocks up like a little bit of a T, so I've got one on its long side and one on its short end side. And I'm going to aim to get the long block just around about the middle of the back. So middle of the back, so it goes between the shoulder blades. Oh, it's perfect. Very rarely is perfect first time. So between the shoulder blades, and as I relax my arms down and really let go of the effort there, my rhomboids, the muscles that draw my shoulder blades towards my spine, which I use a lot in yoga, and hopefully you do too, they get a little massage, a little almost like a foam rollering effect of gentle pressure to release tension there. And if I move the block a little bit higher up, then my scapulae, the muscles that are just a little bit above those ones. Let's go with those muscles. would get the same effect. And so this is a little less supportive on the low back, but my back doesn't mind it because this shape suits my back. And if it doesn't suit you, then of course one of the blanket options would be better. And I can also do my Baddha Konasana legs here if I wanted to. I find that it's not as comfortable to do that with the blocks, but it might be for you. And you can always have your knees bent as well here. So if it's very, very intense, a little bend in the knees will give more support to the bottom of the spine, and it takes the pressure off higher up. And then because I enjoy it, and you can decide if you do too, I often spend a few moments with the block under my head on its end, and then turn it onto its long side. And that's really, really nice. I find that gets even more of that contact between the muscles of my upper back and the block underneath me. And simply breathing deeply here has a massaging effect. And the opening is steady and it's slow, but it is intense, it is profound. So if you have mobility issues in your upper back, this can be one of the ways in which you create a more freedom and more space in which to move. And again, when you're finished, getting off the blocks is a little bit harder than, a little bit more challenging perhaps than getting off the blanket. So I take my head off the head block and then just ease myself to the side. We're trying to move as little as possible to get back down onto the floor. And again, coming into constructive rest. And perhaps here in constructive rest, you want to give your head a little rock from side to side. That can be quite nice. And then just taking a few moments. Yin by nature is, it's not that it doesn't require relaxation, it's just that you're trying to remain relaxed all through the practice. So while you want an opportunity to come back to center and let your energy settle after practice, you perhaps don't need the kind of extended relaxation that you have at the end of a vigorous practice. But it's up to you if you enjoy the relaxation part of yoga. So these are the Yin Fish postures. And you can of course do them with your bolster as well, just as we have done in classes. With Yin poses, they're better done in and of themselves. So they're better done just Yin or some Yin preparation before a dynamic class and then relaxation. Or you do a dynamic class with a bit of Yin at the end and then relaxation. Or just alone as a Yin class on its own. It's better not to intersperse Yin and dynamic yoga one after the other because it's confusing for our energetic system. And so that's just a brief introduction to the Yin Fish. It's really, really good for mobilizing the upper back, and it works on the heart chakra, which is always nice. So thank you for joining me for this small, short practice. I hope you enjoyed your Yin Fish, and I will see you again in class, hopefully. Namaste.